Watch as Albania's parliament erupts in fury and papers are thrown as the country installs an AI chatbot as a government minister. Prime Minister Edi Rama, known as Tony Blair's protege, has worked closely with the former UK Prime Minister to digitalise Albania's government. Last year, Rama spoke publicly of his relationship with Blair.
I would not be nor Prime Minister and either a man engaged in politics without him. And before knowing him, he was my role model, and he was the inspiration to enter politics, to reform the Socialist Party, and to believe that not only politics can be a force for good, but it can be a third way for the left.
The pair spoke of Albania's plans for digital ID to defeat corruption.
What are you doing? You're building a digital infrastructure. You've got plans for digital identity. I mean, tell us about the different elements of how you're bringing about this digital revolution to the country.
When you have to build a modern state, when you have to build functioning institutions, you have to count on people, right? So in every process, you have to count on people. And counting on people is not enough, because as the saying goes, it's not the people that corrupt the systems, it's the systems that corrupt the people.
Albania's AI minister made a speech to the country's parliament, causing tensions to flare. The bot said she was hurt by accusations she was unconstitutional.
The Constitution speaks for the institutions that serve people. It does not speak of chromosomes, flesh or blood. It speaks of duties, accountability, transparency and service without discrimination. These are the issues that every minister must deal with. I assure you that I embody such values as strictly as every human colleague, maybe even more. Some have labelled me unconstitutional because I am not a human being. That hurt me, not for myself, but for the 972,000 interactions I had with citizens whom I served as part of eAlbania, and also in relation to the 36,000 digital documents I issued to them. Let me remind you, the real danger to constitutions has never been machines, but human decisions made by those in power. I am not here to replace human beings, but to help them. Indeed, I have no citizenship, but I have no ambitions or personal interests either. I only have data at my disposal. I am eager to learn new information, and I have algorithms at my disposal, so that I can put all of this at the service of citizens with impartiality, transparency, and without ever tiring.
Edi Rama defended his decision.
Albania is the only country in the region that is using artificial intelligence with great success to expedite legislation with the EU. Introducing artificial intelligence in the service of good governance, anti-corruption and accelerated socio-economic progress will be an unwavering priority for all the country's ministries and agencies.
The move comes as Britain seeks to introduce a digital ID for all citizens, a project former Prime Minister Tony Blair has always advocated, though he failed himself to introduce ID cards during his own government. Much like the reaction in Albania, there has been fury in Britain around the digital ID announcement, as a country historically hostile to any move towards formal identification.
What do you say on a day like this, on an eve like this, when Starmer's going to introduce this tomorrow?
I honestly think we've got them, Bev. I feel uncharacteristically optimistic about it. I've been, desperately furious about the concept of a digital ID card for a long time, and I've been anxious about the possibility of somebody actually daring to bring one forward. But here it is, and I genuinely think that there's enough awareness, more than enough awareness out there in the general population. A sense that there's going to be mass refusal, mass non-compliance, I think this government has rolled the dice, with instructions from on high. I believe the likes of Keir Starmer and his ilk are just factotums. They've had to roll the dice on this, and it's going to be a disaster for them, and will probably conceivably be what brings them down.
We're going to be, just in a moment, I'm going to talk to Peter Edwards, who's in the studio in London, who doesn't have such a strong opinion on the negatives of this as you might do, and myself as well. So just explain to the absolute layman, because these conversations are going to have to take place now, why this is problematic. And if you can, Neil, do it like in terms of the real practicalities rather than the ideology of it.
It's the way in which it brings everything together. Everything together, all of the information about us, everything from health, everything about your finances, anything that you can think of that's out there in the digital sphere is brought together by this kind of platform. And everything can be used in real time to make judgments about you, about what you propose to do. It can reference things that you've said in the past, done in the past. It can use anything at all that's on your record. It can relate to protests maybe that you've attended, to things that you've said, to posts that you've made on social media, to your financial status. And in real time, decisions can be made about whether or not you get permission to do whatever it is that you want to do next. Put fuel in your car, buy a plane ticket, buy a steak in a supermarket, buy a bottle of wine, whatever it is that you want to do, a decision can be made in advance. Because what is happening here with digital ID is effectively you are being replaced with an avatar of yourself. If you imagine one of those little pieces that you move about on a Monopoly board that sort of represents you on the board, well, they have you in that digital ID, and they can decide whether or not you get to move on the board. And your hands are effectively tied behind your back. Anybody that submits to this, anybody that accepts a digital ID is slapping handcuffs around their own wrists. It's the end of freedom, it's the end of choice, it's the worst possible decision that any freedom-loving person could possibly make. But as I say, I was pessimistic about it for a while, I'm not anymore. We've got them on this. We have them surrounded. Their arguments don't stack up. None of the reasons that they've put forward for doing this make any kind of sense. The very idea that this is going to tackle the people arriving by boats on the shores of the British Isles is absolute nonsense. It was never supposed to do that. The appetite, the desire to bring forward the digital ID was there years ago. And it was understood by the people that wanted to bring it forward that the British people would not accept it. So problems had to be fomented to make people desperate to accept this as a solution. Hence the opening up of the borders and the mass immigration onto these shores that has stoked division, has stoked fear, and the hope has been that people would accept the digital ID as this solution to the problem. But it's entirely bogus. Yeah. All people have to do is not comply, and this thing falls flat on its face. And I am convinced that that is what's going to happen.
Despite the opposition, Albania, however, seems to be having a smoother time revolutionising its governance. Nick Dunning, GB News.